One of the things that noted in while you were talking about our Lord and the exorcism was when we talked about the number that were done, etc. One of the things also that was pointed out in an article that the great Father Hardin had put together was how simple our Lord's exorcisms were, and that he was not using any of the old contemporary rituals and spells that were used at the time. So it was clear to people that this was somehow different, which is what you were kind of alluding to earlier, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear. First of all, he's done his battle with Satan, who is the prince of demons, of course. He's done his battle with Satan already in the desert. So he doesn't have to do it again and again in the exorcisms. His divine power is known, his divine power that was proven to be loving and obedient in the world. It's already manifest. So all he has to do is simply give the word. And that's, of course, how he heals people, by just giving the word. They cannot resist it. His word is so final that the demons leave. In a contemporary exorcism, of course, you have a priest who is using the ritual, but if in as much as the priest and all the people on the exorcism team have that requisite faith, eventually we believe that the ritual will, eventually we know that the ritual will work. We don't know when it will work. For example, the exorcism of Robbie Mannheim, right, which was, the one upon which William Peter Blatty's book was based, The Exorcist.
Okay, right.
That
the movie,
I
right?
think
Movie,
took,
right?
The movie, The Exorcist. That took about 27 exorcisms, I think, somewhere, 27 or more sayings of the rite. But it basically, they just kept right at it, and they could tell that Satan was actually being weakened. And by the way, you can get the whole diary of that exorcism just by putting Robbie Mannheim exorcism diary into Google, and it's there online. You can read it, and it's also, there's a book called The Possessed. The author is slipping my mind right at the moment, but that's a very well put together book. I mean, it's very well footnoted. The references to all the sources are really top notch. That's a very fine book, and it's about the Robbie Mannheim exorcism. But getting back to my point, it took multiple exorcisms, but the faith of the priests, they just kept it up, and they kept it up. They had a large team of them. There was one central exorcist, but they had several Jesuits who were doing that in St. Louis over the course at the Alexian Brothers,
Father,
hospital there.
And how come it isn't just that a priest should be able to come in and let's say use our Lord's name and some holy water and cast out the demon? I know also, I think the Blessed Mother's name apparently is one that seems to be powerful at exorcisms as well.
Very powerful.
Why does it take so long?
Michael.
Is that a function of how possessed a person might be, or we just don't know?
Well, obviously Jesus makes recourse to one statement. Once, the apostles are trying to cast out, a particular demon, and they cannot do it, and so finally they look to Christ and they say, well, what happened here, And Jesus says, this one is going to take much prayer and fasting. Now for him, he'd already done the battle, done the prayer, done the fasting, done the preparation. Whereas, in this particular case, because of the strength of that particular demon, right, it took a long time. Secondly, we just don't know, why God, would, allow, an exorcism to go over multiple days and multiple, full rites of exorcism, beforehand. There could be reasons that have to do with the family. There could be reasons that have to do with, the involvement in the occult prior to the exorcism, right? And by the way, the vast majority of time, you know, when you have a modern day exorcism, the reason is very clear. There is some involvement, or no, not some, but generally a lot of involvement in occult activity prior to it. I mean, people should never use Ouija boards. You should never do anything that would, you know, consort with the occult in any way, shape, or form, because you are just, you know, making a giant portal for the devil to come right on through. And, you know, there was an exorcism that took place at Gonzaga University, not when I was the president there, but when I was a student there. And I can tell you, you know, that, again, you know, you have this kind of occult activity, you start messing with these things, you can actually, you know, bring the devil right into your midst. But the long and the short of it is, God has his reasons. And, you know, maybe the reason in the case of Robbie Mannheim was, you know, hey, look, you know, we're still talking about this exorcism, and the diary that was left behind, you know, I mean, 60 years later, or no, 70 years later, we're still talking about this. And so, for all intents and purposes,
well, I guess,
you know, it
in
solidifies
ways,
in people's
right,
mind
I
the
guess like a
reality
lot of
evil.
things, right? If it's too easy, sometimes we don't take it very seriously.